I'm going to start with the Indiana-Oregon game, though, because these are the two teams that actually, when you look at the Vegas standings, if you will, or odds, they're actually the top two teams in terms of odds to win the national championship. Right now, the odds-on favorite is Indiana, and right behind them is Oregon, and they're going to face off in the Peach Bowl on Friday. This is going to be one heck of a game, and we already saw the game. As we all know, this is a rematch from an Indiana win earlier this year up in Eugene, in what was an incredible game that was tied in the fourth quarter until Indiana finally pulled away with an incredible drive from Mendoza. He threw back shoulders to Surratt over on the left side. And so we get this rematch, which a lot of us are excited for, including myself. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about Indiana, because I will be honest, we're all in the sport. We're all in the sport because we love it. And there are things sometimes that can be frustrating. And I'm sensing one of those starting to happen now with this Indiana team. And that is, I'm not going to go full on like lack of respect, but there is an overlooking of Indiana that is happening right now across the country. It doesn't matter who you're listening to, what you're watching. There's an overlooking of Indiana that is currently happening. And the reason I know that is because their resume is actually, without a doubt, the best resume in all of college football. They're the most tested team in the country right now. And they're the ones that are 14-0. They're the ones that have handled everybody. They're the ones that have only given up more than 15 offensive points one time this year, and that was in a game on the road to Penn State. This is the team, Indiana, that in only 2 games have given up more than 1 touchdown, right? Like, this is the team that is so sound and mistake-free and just absolutely bludgeoned Alabama. That game was reminiscent to the games that we saw early in the playoff lineage, when we had like Bama beat up on Michigan State, Clemson beat up on Ohio State in some of those early playoffs when we had the 4-team playoff. That's exactly what Indiana did to Alabama in the Rose Bowl this past week. And yet, if you listen to people, you know, in particular the some of the loudest and most prevalent, you get the sense that there's like this, anyone can win this national championship. My goodness, we didn't know any of these teams would be here. Listen, if this Indiana team had any other logo next to their name, and by the way, I'm going to beat you to the comments down below, and please go ahead and comment, and I love to jump down there as well. I know that I'm guilty of this as well, because I talked glowingly all year, now granted about Indiana, but yes, about Ohio State. And if this was Ohio State's logo next to this resume, next to this team in Indiana, if this was an Alabama logo, a Georgia logo, next to this team, we would all be talking about, is this the best team that we've ever seen in college football? Because no team in the history of our sport has ever been able to go 16-0. Now, granted, that's a scheduling thing, but this team has a chance to do that. This team defensively has been one of the great defenses that we've seen in a long time. And again, I'm part of this. I know that I've overlooked Indiana to an extent during the course of this season, but not anymore. And no, this is not a wide open playoff. These two teams, Indiana and Oregon, are the odds-on favorite by a wide margin. And the reason is because of how tested they are. And that is specifically so with this Indiana team. They're the ones that have beaten 3 teams that played in the quarterfinals in the college football playoff. Oregon played in the quarterfinal, Bama played in the quarterfinal, lost to Indiana, and Ohio State played. No other team can say that. They beat 3 quarterfinal teams this year. This team stands on business as the best team in college football, and I just wanted to get that kind of like off my shoulders early in this, because it's been bothering me this week. I've been listening to a lot of products out there, and I don't think Indiana gets the respect that they deserve, because that's a great football team, And to that end, I look at this team, and there are 4 tight games that they've played this year. And if you're Oregon, you've got to mimic those 4 tight games. One of them was Oregon, and so they're going to understand this blueprint because they participated in this game. But The blueprint is not simple, but it's there. It's there. And that is that in every one of these games, a few things happened. Number one is you've got to attack the strengths of Indiana, and you've got to at least make them work to succeed in areas that they're really strong. Okay. And the first area that I would go to is their run game. In every one of their close matchups this year, and their close matchups I categorize as the close game against Iowa on the road, the close game against Oregon on the road, Penn State on the road, and then Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. In every one of those games, they were held under 4 yards per carry. So that's kind of like prerequisite number one. You have to do that just to be in the game. It doesn't mean that you're going to win, but just to be in the game. And one of the things that, just to build and expand on that point just quickly, is that when they're able to run the ball efficiently, like they did in the Rose Bowl, is they become almost unstoppable on third down. It's what has led to them being the number one third down offense in all of college football, is because they're in short yardage. They can control the line of scrimmage, they can run the football, and then they can convert. They stay on the field, then they tire you out, and then they're going to score, and their defense is rested, and their defense dominates. So that's number one. You have to control their run game. Number two, you've got to find a way to score on them in the red zone. And I'm not talking about field goals. I'm talking about getting the ball in the end zone. And this is one of the things that goes totally unnoticed about this team, partly because they've got a Heisman Trophy winner on the offensive side. And we all looked at Ohio State as the dominant defense, in particular in the Big Ten and in the country, for the majority of the year. This defense is elite. And one of the areas that they're most elite, and I would say actually the best, is red zone defense. They just don't allow touchdowns. They just don't allow touchdowns. In fact, they're number one in the country in red zone touchdown percentage against. It's down there at like 26%. It's a wild low number. We haven't seen a low number like this since I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like 2017 LSU, right in there, is the last time we saw a red zone defense that was this stingy as it relates to giving up touchdowns. So that's one area. For instance, Oregon was 0 for 3 scoring red zone touchdowns in their first matchup. They lost 30-20. Right? So like you've got to convert those opportunities when you're able to get it in the red zone. The last thing is that you've got to play clean against this Indiana team because they play clean. They don't make mistakes. You know, the old line about Val Kilmer / Iceman in Top Gun, ice cold, no mistakes. That's how they play. Kurt Signetti with the buzz cut. Maybe we should just start calling him Iceman, because you look at the two areas that can get you beat the quickest in any game, penalties and turnovers, they're phenomenal. They are phenomenal. In fact, they're number 3 in the country in terms of penalties per game at only 3.6. So you just don't get a lot of laundry on the field, and you don't get the football on the field either. They've only committed 8 turnovers so far. That's 3rd in the country. Meanwhile, they create a lot of turnovers. So their turnover margin is actually plus 18 right now. That's tied for number 1 in the country with Arizona. So you've got to play clean against this team. And by the way, all 3 of those things just to be in the game late. And then you get to the point where they're clutch, maybe the most clutch team in all of college football. The Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza, was clutch against Iowa. He was clutch against Oregon. He was clutch against Penn State. He was clutch against Ohio State. This guy made great throws in only 16 attempts in the Rose Bowl. So this is what's so difficult about beating Indiana, is that you've got to conquer all of that just to be in the game. And once you're in the game, now you've got to deal with the Heisman Trophy winner who's throwing dimes out there. They got Charlie Becker. They got Elijah Surratt. They got Omar Cooper. It's really difficult. It's very difficult to beat this team. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, this Oregon team, they are no slouch. And in fact, what Dan Lanning has done and what he's built at Oregon, I don't think it can be overstated. When you look at the last 3 years, Oregon is 38-4 in the last 3 seasons. Those 4 losses are to Washington twice, and that was a Washington team that played for the national championship against Michigan, to Ohio State last year, who won the national championship, and then Indiana earlier this year, who they're playing right now in the national semifinal. He's 48-7 as the Oregon head coach, back-to-back 13-win seasons. This is a great program, a great program. They are deep. They are strong at almost every spot on the field. They just happen to be going against right now a team that is suffocatingly good. And we saw that play out in the Rose Bowl. So Oregon's going to have to play really well in the defensive front 7 and stop that run game, hold them under 4 yards. When they get their chances, Dante Moore in the offense, they've got to capitalize. We can't have the mistakes and the miscues like the penalties and the turnovers. And quite frankly, Dan Lanning's going to have to manage a really great game, because if you miss an opportunity against Indiana, there's a good likelihood that they will win the game. They're just that surgical right now. They're that methodical. Like I said, suffocatingly good, this Indiana team. Now, if there's one team that could do it, it would be Oregon. There's very few teams that can go out there and hang with this Indiana team. Oregon's one of them. We already saw it one time this year. I think they need to run the football really well. They did not do a good job of that in their first matchup. Part of that was the sack yardage. If you actually peel that away and you look at what their running backs did in run plays, they got 24 carries for 4.8 yards per carry. That's pretty good against Indiana. They need to sit there. The best way to protect the quarterback against the Hoosiers is keep the quarterback out of 3rd and long. So I think Oregon's going to need to run the football quite often, in particular early in the down set, to try to create short yardage situations and allow Dante Moore the opportunity to have success. Because if you're in passing situations against Indiana, the zone is too intricate, the rush is too good, and like we saw from Julian Sand and Ty Simpson in the last 2 matchups, there's a lot of patting the football in the backfield, because there's nowhere to go with it. Their zone is just too good in the back end. I could talk all day about that game, but you got to make a pick at the end of the day. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. I'm going to take Indiana in this one, 27-21. They are 4.5-point favorites. I'm going to give those 4.5. I'm going to take Indiana, and I'm going to say Indiana 27-21, and they go play for a national championship. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.